we go. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Sorry for the little bit of late start. We made a last-minute executive decision to bring in some graphics for all of you to see. I'm Marty Clayton, and so don't get confused. This is Clayton Lance, okay? And we both work at Utah Valley University in the animation, or in the Department of Digital Media, and we teach animation and game development. Okay, so we both have been out in the industry for a little bit. Of course, you can look at my white hair and tell I've been out a little bit longer. But I've been more in the game industry, whereas Clayton has focused more in the animation industry. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. You mentioned primarily my focus has been in film and TV. So I worked at Nickelodeon doing children's television programming, and also at DreamWorks Television doing the same. So you know, some of the more popular ones that you've probably heard of are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Voltron, Puss in Boots, VeggieTales, shows like that. So yeah, combined, I think we have a lot of really neat experience across the board, gaming, film, TV, and really where that's a kind of a jumping off point to many other industries as well that I'm sure we'll briefly talk about it today as well.
Yeah. I worked at Electronic Arts and worked on Tiger Woods Golf for several years. I worked also, we ended up getting a contract with Hasbro Corporation, so we worked on Nerf N-Strike and Nerf N-Strike Elite. So they were the first kid-friendly first-person shooters because they used darts. I worked on Monopoly Streets, and then worked on Sims 3 Pets for the 3DS. So those are some of the more well-known ones that I've worked on. I worked on a few other ones that didn't quite make it in the industry very far, but that's something that you don't always have a lot of control over. So anyway, as Clayton mentioned, we both have quite a bit of experience here, so hopefully we'll be able to give you some good information. One of the things that we would kind of like to start out with is we've got a bit of a slideshow that I would like to be able to show you and maybe give you a little bit of information on as it's showing, okay? So with that, are we hooked up so that we can get audio from this? Or
that's on me.
Oh, you're going to use that?
I can unclip myself here. There we go.
Okay. So this first piece that you're seeing right here, this is actually a VR project that we worked on. And let me step off to the side here. We were approached by the Aviation Science Department at UVU. They wanted to teach flight attendants how to deal with fires that, there we are, that may be happening in the main cabin of an aircraft. And so we worked for just a couple of weeks on this particular prototype for one of the professors to take to a conference to get interest on this. So we are going to continue on with this in the fall semester and be able to make this so that the people look more real and they're moving around in a chaotic type of a way. Right now they were just moving around generally with their arms out in a prone position. So we actually have two people working in cooperation with each other on that. So these are some of the junior year serious games. This was a project for Disney Imagineering, actually, for their competition in which they were runner-up in this particular competition. And so this was also all VR related so that you can jump all around. This particular project was kind of an accident reconstruction software that you could use to actually set up the exact path of the vehicle that was moving along and be able to put in where it accelerates, where it brakes, bring in more than one car, have them collide with one another. Junior year is all about the students working on what's known as serious games in our program. So non-entertainment related things. And so they created this completely from scratch. They kept missing each other. And still miss each other. But now you can put things that they can collide with and all of that. So it's just a matter of adjusting some things around and still miss. So let's see about getting this to move on a little bit more. There we are. Okay, so this particular project is a Nanotechnology Project. It's making very, very small circuit boards. And so part of the reason we ended up working on this project was there was a National Science Foundation grant to be able to create a nanotechnology program at UVU. And one of the professors was awarded $800,000 to work on this project for 3 years. And so they brought me in, and then I brought in a couple of students to be able to work on this. And all of this equipment that you're seeing here is hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so to be able to bring in a class size of maybe 10 or 15, to be able to only have one of those at the university would take forever to bring people through. So we created a virtual laboratory where you could go in and actually do the work within the virtual lab, get better and better and better. And that way you don't drop as many things, you don't damage things, you don't leave things out, and you're actually graded on how fast that you're able to do this. And so this particular process is photolithography. So they put a particular template on there. Now their UV is bombarding that wafer that they put down on there. And now they're going to bring the wafer out and bake it. Well, actually, they're going to put it in a developer solution and then a regular water to be able to get it finished. And you can see how there's actually lines on there. This, and I wish you could see it a little bit better, is a tornado simulation. And this was also in VR. The first time I walked into this and that happened, there were pieces of things flying around me and I'm ducking and everything trying to avoid it. This particular project you will actually see a little bit later on at the Dinosaur Museum at Thanksgiving Point. this, although it's not completely done, and you can see the models, they have not been added in and finished upon, but you'll be able to see the muscles and the bones of the Utah raptor. And in this, you can wander around this small section of forest, and you can actually feed the raptor. You can go around and look at different things and gain some knowledge on the Utah raptor. Actually call it over to you and everything, and it's really interesting having that VR headset on and having this animal come right up next to you that's a little bit larger than you. So these are the kind of things that we can build. It's not just regular games, but actually educational type things as well. This particular project was done by a junior. This is, I don't know whether you know this or not, but Amazon is looking at delivering packages by drones. So this is actually a simulation to see how some type of an interface might work for the pilots to be able to pilot these drones to drop off packages at different areas, keeping track of your battery life, and there are weather pods that actually come in and affect the way that the drones actually move. So this is a rather long one, so I'm going to skip a little bit forward on this. Okay, so this is what's known as a prototype. This is what we start out with when we first start modeling out an environment right here. So you can see it's very, very simple pieces. You start out with a design and then you create this prototype. Then this is what it actually looks like when you finish it all out with all of the textures and visual effects and lighting and all of that. Once again, the projector doesn't really do this justice. Can we hit the lights? Is it possible? You can see it a little bit better. This was another level design project of actual inside of a church, junior project. This was like a takeoff of the movie Left 4 Dead. And so he tried to create a type of village where zombies came through and actually took out an awful lot of the people within this town. This is a fictional place that this guy came up with of being, whoops, ooh, that fell. Being able to come through and gain access to quite a large chunk of gold that's located in the palace just up ahead. So you have to do several different things to be able to get the doors to open. And then there's a statue holding a big piece of gold right there. And you have to go through and find within the crypts the right button to press in order to get the statue to lower the gold. Hopefully it doesn't fall on you. This was kind of an outdoor environment here, snowy environment in a graveyard, and you had to go around and turn on different things to be able to activate, to be able to get this ball right here, or this gem right here that you end up taking up and turning on a laser coming out of another ball. Why they're doing that, I'm not quite sure, but it's fun. Another jungle type environment here. Once again, all of these assets that you're seeing in here, the grass, the flowers, the trees, the sky, everything, all digital, rocks, buildings, walls, all of that. And he gets the key to be able to unlock the gate to get out of there. Yet another environment that's a combination of indoor and outdoor space. Another outdoor space that ends up, you can't see it, but it's a great big stone hand. Clayton, I think we'll probably draw this to a close here, because I think this is going to go on for a little bit. I think we're only about halfway through it. And we want to be able to do question and answer. So if you want to hit the lights again over there, that'd be great. So this is just a few examples of the types of things that is being done at Utah Valley University in animation and game development. But now we're here to be able to answer questions about the industry as a panel, and to be able to help you guys know what it's going to take to be able to get into the industry. So if you have any questions, we're more than happy to be able to answer them now.
Which year specifically on the Tiger Wood games?
It was 2006, 7, and 8. Yeah. Good. Yes. Yes.
What education do you need to do
For level design? Well, our actual whole program, we focus on not only level design, in which we do have one class that's level design, but there are several other classes that you'll need to be able to take. 3D modeling,
some scripting classes. You have to know the game engines you work in.
So, okay.
My son is 16 and looking to be in game design. What would you tell him to do to prepare?
Take that one. One of the things he just kind of hit on is it really is a very multidisciplinary type of a field, right? There are many different things within the field that you can do as well. So part of that's going to be, what are his interests? Is he a person that really likes programming? He really likes that tech part of things? Is he a person that's an artist and wants to develop these 3D images and assets? Or is he the type of person maybe that likes to tell a story or design things? Those are questions I think really you have to learn all of these things, but you have to know your focus. What is it that you really want to do, okay? That being said, what can you do to prepare? I wish we had a list of these. There's some softwares available to students, and there's plenty, oh yeah, that'd be great. And plenty of amazing online resources for free that would be great to check out. As far as 3D development, modeling, Autodesk Maya, he's writing up there. Maya is the name of the tool. It is free for students. It is an industry standard, both film and game. Another one is Unity. That's the game engine that we use down here at Utah Valley. There's that one and there's another one called Unreal. Those are the two main big game engines that he could look into. They both have their own individual programming or scripting languages, which you could get into based on those softwares. Oh yeah, Substance is another one. Substance Painter is the name of it, also free for students. That's for texturing. So with modeling, it's just like you're creating clay sculpts. Texturing is where you're actually painting details and surface, textures onto the model. So that finishes things up, Substance Painter and Substance Designer. Drawing is always a really important thing, even if you don't want to be necessarily a 2D artist. Accessing that part of the brain is immensely helpful for all creative art forms. Obviously, drawing we have our students draw as much as possible, even if they're programming. It just opens up creative channels that are hard to access sometimes. Oh yeah, and Blender. He's writing out some other ones. Blender is an open source program that's free regardless of whether you're a student or something else. You can do pretty much everything in there. It is open source. It's not as supported as well or as much in the industry, but it is definitely something you can learn on. So, yeah.
Let's see. As far as so you use Maya over Blender most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Maya is an industry standard within the game industry, so that's why we focus on that. If Blender were, it would be different. We would end up using Blender. But if you are a student somewhere, you can get Maya for free, but Blender's free for everyone, regardless.
And the reality too is it is industry standard, but if you can do it in one, you can pick it up in the other.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you're thinking of industry work, it's probably best to start in the right place, in the same place, I should say.
As far as drawing tablets go, do you have any recommendations?
Drawing what?
Drawing tablets.
Digital
tablets.
or regular?
Input device, mouse replacement as far as...
Oh, okay. We use Wacom, W-A-C-O-M.
Mm-hmm. A basic, it's kind of like a laptop touchpad, only massive.
Yeah, it's a big tablet, input tablet.
Cintiq, others do not like my Intuos. And I use a variable amount of 2D software for me, since I'm more of a 2D-based person. I don't quite have the substance to fit into 3D design. I use anywhere from Krita, which is an open source software similar to Photoshop, as well as Flip Studio Paint, which is a fantastic software. It has models that you can actually pose and draw over. It's Flip Studio Paint. Krita is free, Flip Studio Paint is not, but I would absolutely recommend both sent to you, as well as Paint Tool SAI. It is very, very popular and among artists, and although I don't personally use it as I find the layout a bit confusing, I would, if it's for you, definitely go for it.
So Intuos, the Intuos that she was talking about is just a standalone tablet that sits on the desk and you use a pen and draw on it. So it's a matter, some people struggle with it at first because you're used to drawing like this by looking down at it. Well, now you have to draw while you're looking at your screen. And it's usually something that you get used to. The Cintiqs are actually, they're like a monitor that you can draw on. And I know within EA, you know, that brought our production up quite a bit to be able to use Cintiqs over Intuos, but Intuos is a great entry point.
And that brand specifically, Wacom, they've been around a long time. They kind of dominate the industry because of that, and they're really expensive. There are other brands now that are pretty strong. They do a really good job, and you pay half the price for them. I actually can't think of the name of them right now. I know there's why it's a
lot of them are
Japanese,
like Asian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, you can look at it. They do the job too. They're just different brands. And even iPads. We've got a couple students that actually have their software that connects their iPads directly to their computers, so it acts just like a Cintiq.
And iPads are really wonderful. I've got one in a digital pen, and I can do many wonderful things on it. So, yeah. Okay.
There's one more here.
The 2D aspects of things, the character design and the music design. I personally have loved both. Actually, I was just sketching a character of mine earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Although the markers were not right where I needed them, they were just fine. But I have an interest in those. I know that there aren't a lot of demand for 2D games these days, but what would you recommend?
I would say 2D games are actually very popular, honestly. You know, some games you may not even realize are 2D because they've found ways to rig up and animate the characters in a way that they look different. So that definitely, people are drawing all the time. Character designers, that's a very in-demand job, and actually a really hard, it's a job that's hard to get because you'll get people that come in as character designers and they're good and it's cush and they stay there for 25 years till they retire. That's not to say they don't exist, but they're definitely, designers are very important. Mm-hmm. Our program specifically, we focus on the technical skills of animation and game production. Something like that is more geared towards perhaps an illustration program. And we actually have, at UVU, we have one of our guys that came a couple years ago, he was like Harley Quinn. He drew all the Harley Quinn comics. He's very good. He's a character designer. He knows what he's doing. We've got a few artists over there that are really good, and that's what they do. And we've collaborated with them, actually, and had students that are interested in exactly what you're saying, that have designed characters with backgrounds, you know, with backstories, and we try to implement those, yeah.
But if you want to get into games, then you would go more into our program. If you want to get into just the drawing side of things and really become great artist that way in doing character art or environmental art, then you would probably want to go towards the illustration side of things. Either way, I mean, you could potentially get into the game industry that way, so that's not a problem. Okay.
So, I don't want to make this too problematic, but so one of the things that I've been seeing is that the game industry has been becoming a little bit more problematic as of late, just with workers. So I'm just wondering, what's the best way to look for a job, also being cautious about
now, when you say problematic, what about the industry is problematic? Getting into the industry, is that what you're saying?
No, more of keeping your job.
Oh.
Struggling studios, struggling artists.
Okay, yeah. The game industry in and of itself is a great industry, okay? It's, when I was in it for 15 plus years, it's some of the most fun that I've ever had working in my life, okay? And it's very fulfilling, and you get to work on a lot of different things. It's really good. The other side of the coin to that is that it is a bit what's the word that I'm looking for?
Volatile?
No, it's just you can lose your job very easily because volatile. That's what I was looking for. That's the word I was looking for. It can be a bit volatile, okay, where once a game, a particular production cycle of a game is done, then if they don't have something coming up right away, then they could lay off a whole team. Or if a particular intellectual property just happens to stop becoming as popular, like Sims nowadays. You don't see that much from Sims on EA's because it stopped being so popular, so they laid off a bunch of people as well, okay? And so it's just, the nice thing is that there's enough game companies out all over the country that you can probably find something, but you may end up having to move. And I know my daughter is living proof that we moved all over the country a couple times.
Every few years.
Yep.
Every few years.
Yep. So anyway, it is a good industry. Animation, you can talk about that a little bit.
It's really kind of the same thing. And you go into it knowing that. I mean, it's just one of those necessary evils. And it's kind of a feast or famine. You have work, hopefully save up a little bit knowing that there will be kind of gaps in between jobs. And yeah, you got to be willing to move around to where they are. You know, if you're smart, you kind of go to places where there are a lot of studios, which probably means Burbank, right? Southern California. Gaming, there's a lot of studios in Texas as well, right? Or up in
Texas, Seattle,
Vancouver,
California.
yeah. So you got to be smart about it. You just understand that that's going to happen. There's also, on the film side, they have unions. On the game side, they're trying to get unions so that there's more things around for gap pay and other protections. They're working on that, but again, it's just kind of one of those, you know, that's what you're getting into, and you got to always keep your eyes and ears open for opportunity. Yeah. Yep. There's a question way in the back.
Say that again, one more time.
Like, if there's a new God of War, would you use examples from that game in design?
You know, one of our favorite things we do is we have these magic days that we call research, and we pull out the video games and we play them. We do. And I'll let, this is really your realm, but absolutely. I mean, with any, especially creative forms, you absolutely use every reference you possibly can to learn from, even to copy so that you can learn from those references and elevate your work, 100%. And now I'm stepping back.
No, that's
I already stole
really
it from you, I'm sorry.
He's absolutely right. We do that, and we start out at the beginning of the semester, they'll come up with an idea for a design, or we will hand them an idea for a design. Actually, that's what it's been mainly these last few years, is we'll hand them a basic idea, a very fundamental idea. Like this last one, I said, okay, here's your basis for your design. You're doing a side-scrolling game in which your character is running away from an enemy that's constantly chasing you, and you have to use pieces of the environment to slow down or stop the enemy from running after you. And that's all that was given to them, so they could come up with the particular theme that they wanted to. They could do zombies chasing somebody else. They could do dogs chasing cats. It could be anything. And then what they'll do is they'll go in and start looking for games out there that are similar to this game, because There's not that many original games out there anymore. A lot of them are just a regurg of something else, okay, with a little bit of a different spin on it. So that makes it nice to be able to go out and be able to test things and go from that point. Does that make sense? Okay. I'll do you first, and then Ray, you'll come after that.
So an example of the regurgitating of ideas is the Five Nights at Freddy's series. Like it all started with the first game, and then second, third, fourth, all the way up now to the 8th game, which is the bit.
Intellectual property. Yeah.
And they have merchandise and all that. But what I'm getting at is all the fan-made games. Some of them are like, this was inspired by Scott Hawkins' Five Nights at Freddy's, or whatever. Or they like outright say it in game dialogue. And it's not just Five Nights at Freddy's now. It's Five Nights at Freddy's universe.
Yeah, where the actual fans out there can continue to add on to it. There's actual properties out there where you can come in and create your own levels and create your own pieces, for it. So that's all good.
And one of the things, UVU too, I should say, I mean, he's right. How many really different game types are there? It's the same thing over and over again. I remember playing Castle Wolfenstein when I was really young. It was like the birth of the first-person shooter, right? And Doom and Battlefield, and now I'm playing Overwatch, and I look back. I went back a little while ago and played some of the old games, and they were amazing. And now I play them, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't. This is so boring. I can't even play them anymore. But at the time, they were amazing. And that's what you're doing. You're always looking for that new innovation or that new little catch, that new little gimmick that it makes it seem new again. And right now, Marty showed a lot of these projects that are virtual reality or augmented reality. That's kind of the new catchphrase right now, right? It's kind of this new technology. It's driving new industry and new types of games. And that's one thing that we try really hard to experiment with, like what's coming right now. It's really hard. Have you guys strapped on a helmet before, a VR helmet? You've put one on before? Okay, you watch something on this screen, and it's like, okay, that's all right. You put the goggles on your face, and it's a completely different immersive experience. One of the funnest things I've done, if you're familiar with How to Train Your Dragon, that series, they did a VR experience of that where you're sitting on a mount, like you're sitting on a dragon, and it actually would kind of move around with you, and you put the goggles on, and you are on Toothless flying around through the clouds and diving down to the ocean. It was the most immersive, entertaining, fun thing that I can remember doing probably in 20 years. And that's the type of thing that we're always trying to do, right? For your son who's getting into this, it's not just learn these skills, but be thinking like, what can I do? What are the things that will disrupt the industry or create new technologies or way of looking at it that, I mean, not only get you a job but that have the potential to make a lot of money. Really, that's what we're doing, is we're trying to make a lot of money.
And augmented reality is something that's really starting to take off right now. So augmented reality, virtual reality is having something seal off your eyes completely, and you're seeing a completely digital world. Okay? Augmented reality is me being able to see all of you out here, but have digital characters be able to run around and jump on the tables and jump on your head and mess your hair up and all of this type of a thing. Okay, so that's something that is going to be part of the future as well. So we talked about level design out there. We talked a little bit about that earlier. It's going to be how to blend real world with digital worlds. Okay, for the future, because augmented reality, eventually we're all going to be able to have our augmented reality in glasses this size before it's all said and done. Okay? So, Ray.
I actually have 2 questions. Is that okay?
Well,
I don't know.
guess. Can I have an extra slice of pie or something else like that for the second one?
Wait, you can, though. That's fine.
Yes. I love her.
2 questions for you. The first one being, obviously, the video game design and animation field is very popular but highly competitive. And something that a lot of people are very interested in. If you have skills in that area or are interested in it, are there other routes that you can take that don't have to be game design and maybe offer a little more stability
Yes.
for a job?
Yeah. We can tag team on this one here. That's actually what I was talking about a little bit earlier, in some of the videos that I actually showed were serious projects. Because the things that we teach is we teach how to model in 3D. We teach how to create textures for those models, create environments. We can prototype. So make something very simple and test it out to make sure that it works and it's the right scale and all of that. We can do all of that. That plane piece that you saw at the very beginning with the fire in the middle of the plane, that was actually done as a prototype, and we'll go through and finish it. But that's just one industry. You can go architecture, engineering, medical, military, industrial design, advertising. Okay, that's some of the things that we teach, or some of the areas that you can go into that we teach the skills to be able to do that and to do entertainment. And those other industries are much more stable, much more family friendly. And your second question.
Oh, I was just going to say, and sometimes it just takes, again, thinking outside the box. Because, of course, everyone thinks Disney and EA games. But, I mean, you watch TV and you see 3D advertisements all the time. You know, you go to work and there might be corporate trainings that have animation. Go to a jazz game and they've got it all over the giant jumbotrons. It really is everywhere if you're just willing to think outside the box. Yeah.
There are going to be stressful days. Sometimes the hours are not really good, especially when you start getting towards the end of a production cycle. We might start to creep up 10, 12 hours a day. Now, they offer you dinner and buy your dinner, but you know, it's been shown out there that people after about 10 to 11 hours just stop becoming as productive as they were earlier in the day. In fact, is probably even less than that. So that can bring on some stress. There's different things as far as in some of the animations, like you see some of the trailers and they flash an awful lot from one image to another. That could cause some kind of seizure type situation with some people and all, and having to see that type of a thing. That can be a problem.
Yeah, the only other thing I can think of, I've worked with people, I mean, I can think of people that, maybe if I just cut right to the chase here, I think really in this industry, if you can do it, if you can do the work and you can get it done on time, that's kind of the big thing. Because I know plenty of people, they've had various issues, they've had to take days for this and that, but if they were talented, they came in, they got the work done. I don't know what arrangements were or were not made, but they were there and their work got done and they still had a job day in and day out. And, you know, we rub shoulders all the time, so.
I know that educational background itself can be very emotionally taxing, let alone the industry.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we've we've had some people that struggle with it, with getting anxiety or something else like that, because our program is rather intense at times. So, but we try to help them through it as much as we possibly can, but it's a matter of, with some of the people in the past, it's just been a matter of staying on top of medications and things like that.
And it's big. I mean, the whole industry is very, very much deadline driven.
Yeah.
I mean, when they say our movie's releasing on May 26th, you know, if we're not done by May 26th, they're losing millions of dollars every day, and they're losing face as well. So if that type of thing is like carries too much, yeah, if that's too heavy, too much anxiety, then find a way to deal with it, yeah. Are there others in the back again?
So augmented reality is bringing Charles from his world into ours. Virtual reality is going into Tron's world.
Into Tron, is that what you said? Into Tron's world? Yeah. Yeah, you're completely immersed in the other world.
Yeah.
Yeah, like into the computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one fun example I saw recently, they had, so the guy's obviously wearing goggles. He had a table like this, for example, and he was driving, he had a remote control, like for driving a little remote control car, and he had his little car driving all over on the table, and someone else would come over and put something like this on the table, and the computer would see it, or the goggles would see it, it would analyze the shape, and this becomes a new actual obstacle for your remote control car. It's a digital car, right? It's not really driving on the table. But next time you come around, this is a little jump. This is a ramp for the car, right? And you'd put in walls, or bring your other players in, and you crash into each other, and right? So I'm still seeing the real world, but kind of I have an overlay of digital assets on top of it. Yeah. Oh, that's yours.
Yeah.
Oh, right here.
Oh.
I was actually wondering, have you shown any of your students a game called Antechamber for just showing what you can do with the game?
No. Not familiar with that one.
Nope.
Basically, it's a game where what you see might not be exactly what you're actually seeing. So when you look one way, a path might be there, but when you go backwards, a new path opens. So it's a really great game.
I bet to design that game was, I bet they had to go through an awful lot to design that game.
Playtesting.
No, it's
Yeah. I'll have to remember that. Thank you.
no problem.
Mm-hmm. Other people, what do you think? Okay.
So if you want to go into the mechanics of the game itself, so you would just do the coding side, like the user interface, and how, let's say in a first-person shooter, you want to have it behave in a certain way. That's the coding part, right?
Mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, coding, and I think a thorough understanding of how the game engine works. I mean, just as an example, if you haven't been in a game engine before, there's things called rigid bodies and colliders. So, for example, I'm a rigid body, right? You can touch me, and my hand, for example, would be a collider. So you'd put like a collider by your door, rather than having to program things and say, when I walk within a certain distance of the door, it's going to open. You could say once my rigid body hits the collider, then it opens. So within the game engine, you'd have to understand some of these pieces. But yeah, then the code to say, okay, they've hit, now what do I do next? And that's another thing that he does a lot of. He does a lot of our level design. That's like how things happen within a game engine. You showed the example of white boxing, where you're using spheres and cubes and inanimate objects. But you're driving it all with the code and with the engine, behind the scenes engine stuff. So, yeah, okay.
Okay. Sure.
So I took one of your classes at one point. It was the basics with the modeling. but we didn't cover anything regarding sculpting. Do you handle sculpting as well as modeling?
It's done later on.
Later on.
Well, we want you to understand, because sculpting deals a little bit more with characters, I think.
Yeah, organic shapes.
Yeah, something that's a very organic type of a shape. Whereas initially the types of things that you're making are a lot of hard surface type models, okay? So those are the types of things that we want you to be able to understand how to come in and be able to look at, you know, the lines that help make up the models. That's called edge flow, the topology of it. So we want you to be able to understand what's the best balance of how many polygons, because some people will just pump up polygons so dense that it just looks like this bright ball of lines. And then you have to go in and create a UV map of it, and then that's when you start regretting how many polygons you put in. So we try to teach them how to create the best looking model with the least amount of polygons. Okay? Let's see, yeah, Ray.
Is education, like formal education, necessary to be in the animation development? Do you need to get a degree, or can you just take a
This is that double-edged sword. Oh, I just catch it.
Because I know a lot of people come up and ask, do you need like a full 4-year degree? Can I just take a couple classes, or can I just rely on my portfolio?
I will say one thing.
Okay.
One thing. You know Kurt?
Yeah.
Kurt Little. He was my mentor. He was an art director. He has absolutely no formal education in this. He is all self-taught, and he is the exception. It can be done, but you have to be really dedicated and really organized to be able to do that type of a thing personally.
Okay, I just read an article yesterday, actually, from a guy, a veteran in the industry for 30 years. And his take on it, and I agree with this, is if you can do it, you've got a job. A degree is completely unnecessary. And this is a double-edged sword. I teach at a university, so I have to be careful what I say here, but not really. You're fired. I know, seriously. If they don't even look at your education, they don't look at your degree, that's unimportant to them. Because you might have a degree and you're completely incapable of creating art. Because that's all they care about, is what it looks like in the end. That being said, I think they are exceptions to the rule. The people who really, really tackle it, they go after it, they learn, they get really, really good at it. That is the exception to the rule. It can happen if you're that dedicated, awesome. But you can be self-taught. I think the unspokens that come through education, you get real-world projects, you get experience, you get mentorship, and you get networking. That's one of the biggest things. I can't tell you how many, we just had a bunch of seniors graduated, and we've just pointed them probably at a dozen jobs at least, because people reach out to us and then we can reach out to our students. And all along the way, we take trips to California, or we go all over the place, and we introduce them to professionals, to studios. They start talking, they build relationships. Can you do that on your own? Sure, but sometimes it really helps to have other people who are already have fingers here and there to help out. So it's unnecessary, but I do think that it is a great help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. By the way, Cody and Jerome both have internships.
Oh, did they get them? What Tritium? Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
What else?
Besides that, does can this degree be applied to like alternative fields such as architecture, structural engineering, parts development, 3D printing, stuff like that?
Absolutely. That's part of what we are trying to promote, and we just started doing this within the last year here is that's the serious games side of things, where you can go through and create those type of things. We had one of our students, Jerome, who I was just talking about. He created in VR a motorcycle engine, all the internal workings and everything like that. And he had the ability for you in VR to be able to disassemble it, and all the parts are labeled, you know, so they come up, and then reassemble it. And we're actually working on a project for transportation technology, automotive, at UVU, where we're going to be doing an automatic transmission and a manual transmission doing the same thing. Some of the students will be working on that this fall.
And again, can you imagine for an industry that works out of a textbook with diagrams, automotive, right? Have you ever tried to fix your car before? You get one of those, I can't remember who makes those, all those automotive books.
Chilton's.
Chilton's. To me, they're really intimidating. But to be able to jump into an app like this and pull apart an engine, like, gives me a lot of confidence. In fact, Marty, a year or two ago, we went to a conference, and Marty did a stint. He performed surgery on a patient, went in through his arteries and put a stent in his artery. It was all VR training. He had a guy there as his nurse, as his assistant, walking him through the whole thing. You never would have had that opportunity before, right? But he was actually able to get in there and understand what that process would be like. So it applies to so many different things.
We have a nurses project where we're going to be dealing with being able to interface in VR to be able to work with patients surgically. You know, so it's there's a great big industry out there besides entertainment that you can get into. So it was big, but now it's way big. So, yeah. Okay, I think I just got the heads up that we're about out of time here. If there are no more questions, thank you so much for coming. And if you want to come up and talk with us afterwards, we'll probably be out there. Okay?
And if you're ever interested in coming down to UVU, we'd love to give you a tour as well. Strap one of those VR headsets on and let you see some of these projects in real life.
So. Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun.